Hello and welcome back to SCAD GamingFest. We hope you've been enjoying this year's programming. I know I have. My name is Christina Nunez and I'm a senior performing arts major from Miami, Florida. I'm joining you from Studio A in Hamilton Hall on the set of Grits, one of several original productions created, written, produced, and performed by SCAD students. Tonight, it is my honor to present the SCAD GamingFest Spotlight Award to Will Wheaton. As a young actor in Stand By Me and as Wesley Crusher in Star Trek, The Next Generation, Will paved a path for himself that crossed from genres and platforms. From adding his voice to Red Dead Redemption and his ever-evolving arc on The Big Bang Theory, Will continues to gather loyal fans who respect and revere both his work and his commitment to Whedon's Law. He even helped propel Rival Peak to take over Facebook Watch with the after show Rivals Speak. Will's a host of all hosts, brought the cultural phenomenon to a meta masterpiece. We can all thank Will for helping reignite classic gaming through his hilarious and entertaining web series, Tabletop. And his new esports reality competition series, Game Master, will begin shooting in Georgia this year. Through all his work and entertainment, Will still finds time for honest advocacy and social justice. He's a champion for those who suffer from depression and anxiety and a proud supporter of women's rights and health issues. From film to television, books to gaming, consoles to tabletops, Will defines what it means to be a multiple threat storyteller. Let's take a look.
I think I'm very lucky. No matter what happens, how many people get to serve with Jean-Luc Picard?
What is everyone booing at?
Hey guys, what's up?
Hey, Will, what you doing?
I was on Star Trek, just rooting for the home team.
Star Trek stinks!
Yeah, live long and suck it!
Play more games.
Spotlight Award honoree, Will Wheaton. Congratulations!
Wow, thank you so much. You make me feel and seem so much cooler than I actually am. I want to begin by thanking Paula Wallace and the students of SCAD for choosing me to receive this honor. I have to be honest with all of you. I'm a little uncomfortable receiving awards or accolades. I prefer to let the work speak for itself. It has been my privilege to work for a lot of amazing people. You just saw some of the work I've had the gift of performing over the years. These people hired me to help them bring their vision to life. I'm proud of and grateful for that work. I know that it's meaningful to a lot of people. But I have the opportunity now to host shows like Game Master or Rival Speak, because the show I helped create, Tabletop, put me on the producer's radar. Tabletop had a simple message: show the world that gaming was for everyone and inspire people to play more games. It changed my life, and if the emails and social media interactions I've experienced over the last decade are any indication, it's changed a lot of lives in the audience as well. This is the power of art. I deeply appreciate that you've chosen to put me in the spotlight, but I am far from the only person who should be standing in it right now. Tabletop would never have been possible without the passion and dedication of some incredible women with whom I share this beautiful recognition. Felicia Day, Sherry Bryant, Kim Evie, and Jennifer Arnold. Listen, I am the face of Tabletop, so I get more recognition than I deserve. I want you to know that Tabletop absolutely would not exist, and it is very unlikely I would have a career right now, if not for them. They never get the credit they deserve, and I am honored to share this recognition with them. When I was preparing to receive this today, SCAD told me that I had about 2.5 minutes, and I've used about 50 seconds. I know not all of you are students, but I want to use my remaining roughly 55 seconds to speak directly to you students and recent grads. I took an actor's marketing class once, and the professor told us that we all fit a different archetype. a big part of the class was figuring out what that meant for each of us. In one class session, he talked about the existential idea of the archetype, the philosophical implications of it existing. He then suggested that if we viewed humanity as an organism, humanity needs different people to do different things to keep the organism as a whole functioning. This is why, he told us, so many of us who work in arts and entertainment feel it as not a job. It's a calling. It is a calling that exists on an almost supernatural level. We didn't choose art. Art chose us because the world needs art and the world needs artists. The world needs you. Whether you are a first-year student, a graduate, or a graduate student, you are at the beginning of something. And I'm so excited for you. This enormous part of your future is a blank canvas stretched to the horizon. For some of you, it's exciting. For some of you, it's scary. For most of you, I imagine it's a mixture of both. Here is the thing that you need to know. Wherever you are in your journey, it's going to be hard. The life of an artist is hard. And it should be hard because everything worth doing is hard. You all know this. I'm not telling you anything you haven't experienced already. So I'm going to use my final 20-ish seconds to implant something into your brains that I hope you can use for the rest of your artistic lives. I want you to know that no matter what a critic or an editor or a producer or a project lead says, there is nothing in our world more important than making good art. You are engaged in a noble and deeply meaningful pursuit. Through your art, you can give voice to the silenced. You can inspire our fellow humans to imagine and create a better world, something Georgia could really use right about now. You can also do stuff that's just silly and fun, right? You can just entertain. Remember that when you hit these parts that are hard. Remember why you worked so hard to get to SCAD. Remember how hard you worked when you were there, and know that the art you are making now is hard because it is worth making. You're going to hear a voice and it's going to tell you to give up. Don't listen to it. Listen to my voice instead. Art is important. The world needs art and the world needs artists. The world needs you. Go make the thing. You've got this. Thank you for this honor, and thank you so much for letting me talk to you today.
Wow. Man, that was awesome. Hey, Will. I'm Michael Cheney. I teach in the film and television department here at SCAD.
Hi.
Thank you for those words. Those were inspiring to me, and I please know how much those words resonate with our students.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad to know that.
Congratulations on your Spotlight Award, and thank you so much for joining us here at SCAD during GamingFest. I have the distinct pleasure of hanging out with you for a few minutes and talking a little bit more about your career and some of the things you've done across platforms, some of those things that Christina talked about, and in that tribute reel that we saw. And first of all, I want to say, I feel like we grew up together. I mean, I was Stand By Me, and you're Wesley Crusher, dude. And then board games, and then the Big Bang Theory, and now my own children are getting to know you from your animation work and your video gaming work. But we're also a huge board game family. I mean, we have a huge collection, probably not as big as yours, and we can talk. We'll talk about what we're playing these days.
Yeah.
We're so appreciative of your enthusiasm for sitting around at a table and looking at people in the eye and playing a game. What got you into that, and what led to Tabletop? Because I love that web series.
So I've been a gamer for most of my life. It was in our family, we played the Mad Magazine game, and we played the Ungame, and Monopoly, and Payday, and Sorry, and the Game of Life, and all those kind of like standard 70s board games. Then there came a point in my life where I started to feel like board games were just kind of about rolling dice and going forward, and there wasn't a lot of agency or strategy involved in it. So I tried to look at strategy games. Could not wrap my head around chess, couldn't wrap my head around Go. Felt like maybe Stratego was about as far as it was ever going to go. And some friends of mine, when I was 14 years old, said, come over and we're going to play this game called Illuminati. And this is a fairly complicated game from the 80s that's very funny and satirical and unlike anything I had ever experienced in my life. The thing that set this game apart from all the games I was used to playing is that it really required us to use our imaginations to accept the world we were sort of controlling in the fiction of the game. I loved that. And I was like, what are some other games like this we can play? And one of my friends took me to a game shop in Burbank, California, where I lived. And it was like I had walked into the greatest toy store and candy shop in the history of life. I discovered that gaming meant more to me than just about anything else. It became the foundation of and cornerstone which holds together and supports the longest friendships of my life. So when Felicia Day was getting ready to start her Geek and Sundry YouTube network, she called me and asked me if there was anything I wanted to do together. I really admire and respect Felicia. She's a good close friend, and we had worked together a little bit before then on the Guild, but we had never created something together. So she said, listen, I know that you like games. How about a show where you review games? And I said, you know, the best way to review games, honestly, is to play it and let people watch us. And oh my God, the whole idea just came together just like that. It all came out in one just like hairball of idea, just all formed together, and it landed on the floor. And I was like, there it is. This is what we're gonna do. And as I said in my remarks, a group of incredibly talented, extremely creative women came together and supported me and helped bring this show to the world. And I'm not taking this credit personally. I am sharing this with everyone who ever worked on tabletop, in front of and behind the camera. We absolutely changed the world. We absolutely brought gaming to the masses, and we absolutely fulfilled the fundamental mission of the show. Show that gaming is for everyone and put more gamers into the world.
That's awesome. And, you know, there's the Wheaton effect on game sales too. You know, we even talked about this at game shows or conventions that I took my children to, and we would say, let's see, what's good? What should we play while we're here? And they're like, well, Will Wheaton says this. And so, you know, King of Tokyo became our new favorite, or Run for Your Life Candyman, which I don't know if you've played that one or not. But anyway,
I'm not familiar with it, but I love the title.
It's exactly what it sounds like. There's something really wonderful about tabletop gaming, and I'm so appreciative for you for reigniting a fervor for it. There's something about being in person and playing that game, and I've so thoroughly enjoyed tabletop. So thank you for that. And then you made an interesting leap recently with Rival Peak. Mm-hmm. This is just, and for those of you who haven't seen this, who are watching this, I don't know how to describe it. It's part game, it's part reality show. It's a 12-week long experimental competition that allows the audience to interact with the story. It's a cool concept. Where did that come from? How did that develop?
The creators contacted my team, and the pitch was, we're doing a competition reality series where the contestants are AI who don't know they are AI. And we are telling a science fiction story around the game. There is a real meta experience to this, and we would like you to be part of it. I loved 100% of that. All of that sounded risky. It sounded groundbreaking. It sounded untested. It sounded like something that will hopefully in the future, when somebody else comes along and builds a house on the minefield we cleared out, that people will remember what we did. I'm super proud of it. I had an insanely good time doing that show. It reminded me in a lot of ways of the Netflix series Maniac, with a little bit of Twin Peaks, with WandaVision. There was a little bit like all of those elements of things being up in the air, and the reality being just a little bit sideways from our own. And I'm incredibly proud that we started out doing about 1 million views an episode, which is great. Then we were about 3 or 4 episodes in, we were doing about 5 million views an episode, which is great. It's about tabletop numbers. By the time the show was done, we were pulling in an average of 12 million viewers worldwide per week. And I'm just so proud and grateful for it. I really hope they'll give us an opportunity to do some more.
Oh, it's fantastic. And you have Rivals Speak now.
Yeah.
So if you missed out on Rival Peak, you can still kind of play a catch up, right?
One of the things that's really great about this is that Rival Peak, the game, was directly affected by the people watching it. When people watched the game, they would choose which contestants to follow. They would give them tasks. They would throw challenges at them. The audience was heavily affecting what happened to these AI. The AI think that we, the hosts of the show, are controlling them. And in the narrative of it, which unfolds on Rival Speak, they find out, and the players find out, it's actually the people playing the game are really controlling them and manipulating them and moving them around. And the central message of Rival Speak and Rival Peak is a great science fiction morality message. What you do matters. The choices you, specifically you, not the generally understood capital YU, but specifically you. What you specifically do really matters. It changes you. It changes people around you. Everything we do has a consequence that ripples out in ways we cannot imagine, and we really need to think about the choices that we make in our lives. That is sort of the central message of season 1 of Rival Speak. It's a message that I really loved, and like all great science fiction, you can watch it with that at the front of your mind, or you can completely forget about it and just enjoy the drama.
Forgive me for saying this, but that sounds almost like the premise for everything you've touched. You know, the fact that we do have a connection to everyone and our actions do matter. And I think that was articulated in your opening remarks. So thank you for that. If we look at your acting and your writing career, I mean, how do you approach, I don't know, how do you approach your roles? What makes you connect with the material that you engage with as an actor?
I always look for something interesting and challenging in the material. There are certain jobs that are very easy because they are very much like myself. A Big Bang Theory, for example. It took me a while to get really comfortable playing a version of myself.
I was going to ask.
It was weird. It took me almost 10 years to completely accept and be comfortable with the fact that I am playing a character who looks like me and has my name, but is not me, right? And then we did it again with Rival Speak, where there were dozens of iterations of Will Wheaton on that show that exist inside the computer world that maybe are also AI. We never really dug into that too deeply. There are some things like that where I'm playing versions of myself, and that's relatively easy. But I am always looking for something that is challenging, that is interesting, and I'm looking for something that kind of matters. As I said in my remarks, I feel that good art is extremely important. And there's nothing wrong with commerce, and there's nothing wrong with something that pays your bills. We all need to do that. But if we have the privilege to choose what we do, and we have the privilege to choose great art, that's something that I think is real important to be grateful for, and to work real hard to pass that privilege along to other people so that they can do it as well.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing Rent-A-Pal. Haven't seen that quite yet.
Thanks. Rent-A-Pal is available virtually everywhere things stream, including Hulu. So check it out, everybody.
Oh, terrific. I'm looking forward to it. As well as, I don't know, can we see a return to Star Trek, or is that?
Nothing has come up, and I've been working for Star Trek for the last 2 years. I've been hosting their after show, The Ready Room. It's been absolutely amazing. I have had the incredible pleasure of working for them a lot. I've spent a fair amount of time with the creatives behind the scenes. I cannot tell you if we have had discussions. If we had had discussions, I would not be able to tell you that we had them. If they had asked me, I would not be able to tell you that they had, but I can tell you that they haven't, which might be a lie, but it's not. And if they do ask me, I'm going to do absolutely everything that I possibly can to get to yes.
Great. So you and Bill Shatner are still tight, right?
Shatner and I are not close.
No, I know the story.
He's an interesting fellow. You know, he's a prickly guy. You never really know who you're going to get. Sometimes he really is that awful alt-right troll that you see online, and I don't get it. I feel like somewhere along the way, Bill lost the central message of Star Trek. But look, he's 90 years old, and he is who he is. And when he chooses to be kind and effusive and generous, he's super fun to be around. When we worked together on The Big Bang Theory, he was just a gigantic delight. He was great. You just never know who you're going to get with him, and I've come to accept that.
I only brought that up because it's on your the story's on your website.
Yeah.
You know, you're also an author, you're a columnist, you're a blogger. You find so many different ways to tell a story. You know, I think you've kind of answered this, but I'm curious, is there anything that you define as a key element to a good story? What is that common denominator that brings you, connection to, whether it be games or film or television?
I think there just has to be something that emotionally resonates between author and reader. And the author can never know what that's going to be because we don't know who's going to be in our audience. So we need to make choices that are emotionally meaningful and resonant within ourselves, and then trust that the right people are going to come along. There's a little piece of advice that I stole from Joel Hodgson, who co-created Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the 90s. He said, in response to a question about how he and his writers did jokes that were very obscure, and they were all the jokes that I loved. They made me feel smart and clever. I felt like these were references that I got. And he said, when we sit down in the writer's room, we don't ask ourselves, will anyone get this joke? We remind each other that the right people will get this joke. And that's a really important piece of advice for all the artists who are listening to this or watching this today to really internalize and understand. If you try to please everyone, you end up with beige paint and it's boring and nobody likes it. Don't be afraid to take a creative risk. Don't be afraid to absolutely commit to it. And don't be afraid to make something that just completely falls apart. You're going to learn something from that process. And another thing I have learned is I'm turning 49 this year. And here's something I have learned in the 40 plus years I have worked in the entertainment industry. Success is never what you think it's going to be. You always think it's going to be one thing. You always think you're going to make your mark one particular way, or you're going to have your break one particular way, and it never comes along the way you think it is. It never comes along the way you think it will come along. So stay true to yourself. Know what you love artistically. Know what you are hoping to communicate and share. Know what condition inside of you are addressing with your artistic creation. Commit to it, protect it, defend it, and put it out into the world.
Man, I hope every student at SCAD is listening to you right now. Thank you. Creative risk-taking and trusting in your instincts. That's dynamite, man. Thank you for sharing that. You're also a well-known advocate of many different issues. Mm-hmm. You and your wife run the Foundation to Increase Awesome. Mm-hmm. You've also been a strong advocate for destigmatizing our conversation about mental illness. Mm-hmm. Your experiences are yours alone, but the reality is that many Americans struggle with diagnosable mental illness. Can you share a little bit about your advocacy work, particularly working with the organization UROC?
Yeah, of course. I have generalized anxiety disorder and major depression disorder. They are a consequence of an abusive childhood and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I suffered for years for a long time, I didn't know why I was suffering. Then I knew, but mental health was so stigmatized in my family and is so stigmatized in general American culture. I suffered for at least a decade, probably longer than I needed to, because my mother refused to admit and accept that medication was a good idea and was helpful. And my father just didn't care about me and never bothered to ask how I was doing. It was my wife who said to me after I had a complete meltdown in an airport that was really out of a proportion to what was going on. I'm going to handle this problem we're having right now. And then when we get back from this trip, I want you to go see a doctor and maybe get some help. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that too, because I don't want to live like this anymore. And the doctor diagnosed me, helped me figure out what antidepressants would work to help manage my mental illness. And my wife and I were having a walk one day, a walk we had taken hundreds of times before. And halfway through our walk, a quarter of the way through our walk, I stopped and realized that I was like very quietly weeping because I could smell flowers and I could hear birds. And it was something I had never really been aware of, just the simple beauty of that moment. And at that moment, I realized my meds were working. And I had been living in a dark, loud room for my entire life. I'm sorry, not living. I had been existing in a large, dark room for my entire life. And medication and treatment helped me find the door. And then when we were on our walk, I realized I had stepped through the door and I was out of the room. And the only thing left was the ringing in my ears from a lifetime of suffering. And it's a long journey. I live with it. It doesn't control me. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm no more ashamed of my depression than I am ashamed of my allergies or the time I bruised the hell out of my leg crashing into a table because I'm a klutz. It's just my life. It's just part of who I am. If you or someone you love lives with depression, anxiety, or some other mental illness, please talk to a doctor. Look at Project You Are Okay. Talk to the National Alliance of Mental Illness. Talk to a doctor or someone you trust. If you're a young person, talk to a counselor. If you have the kind of relationship with your parents where they support you, have a conversation with your parents. You absolutely don't need to suffer. And I promise you, there's such an amazing life waiting for you when you step out of the room.
Thank you for sharing your story, Will. Not just today, but the bigger picture. You're changing lives. I got to ask you about STEAM. You know, my kids have been involved in STEM projects.
Yeah.
But you're an advocate of that A that, introduces that creative approach to working with STEM. You know, when I was a kid, like historically the math and science kids didn't really hang out with the arts kids.
Right.
Imagine what we could do if we got together, right?
Yeah. I was at a convention about 2 years ago. And I met an astronaut, an Apollo astronaut. This guy has been on the moon. And I was super excited to meet him. And he was advocating for STEM. And I said, I love that you advocate STEM. I advocate STEAM. I really want arts to be part of science and engineering. And this guy who's like 100 years old was real mad about that. he was not into me bringing art into his science and engineering. I disagreed with him politely, and we had a wonderful conversation. But here's the thing about art as it relates to science and engineering and math. Art inspires the scientists and engineers and the mathematicians to make the things that we have imagined with our art. Art inspires the makers and the builders to make our future that we have imagined in science fiction a reality. We can understand so much about every civilization going back to the beginning of recorded human history through their art. You know what we're real excited about in Lascaux? Paintings of animals, not equations.
Yeah, man, stories have been with us for a while. And they're going to continue to hang around. Tell us, you're starting a new series called Game Master, and aren't you scheduled to shoot that in Atlanta soon?
It is. We had planned to put this into production before the pandemic, and we had to pause production while that raged. Now that the vaccine is getting more widely distributed, we're starting to get the pandemic under control. Seriously, people, stop going to parties, stop going places without your masks on. We're so close to the end. Just be responsible, make a little sacrifice, and understand that just a couple of months of staying home more is going to be all the difference between getting through this and being right back where we were 3 months ago. Like, seriously, forgive my coarse language here. Don't be fucking stupid and selfish. Okay, I want to go to cons again. I miss them. And the only way we're going to get to do that is to be out in public again. So we had to put everything on pause. We have unpaused, and we are scheduled to come back to work later this year. I'm very excited about this project. The company is owned primarily by women. We are bringing together a incredibly diverse group of people from all over the country to come be in our studio and play every kind of game, from video games to tabletop games and in between, in a reality competition show with a finale where two people will go head to head to find out who exactly is the ultimate master of games. I'm really excited about it.
Oh man, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I have 3 sons, right? And we work as a pack. So if you're looking for like a family of avid tabletop gamers.
Hey, you said you work as a pack. There's a really fun game called The Alpha from Bicycle. I'm their global brand ambassador. I wouldn't be telling you about this game if I didn't actually love it and believe in it. But it is this game where you are all wolf packs trying to hunt to feed yourselves. The problem is there's not enough food for everybody to get everything they want. So you end up in these conflicts where you have to play out a prisoner's dilemma and decide if you're going to share food or fight for food.
Oh, this sounds fascinating.
It's so fun. And it plays in about 35 minutes and supports 4 players really, really well. I highly recommend it.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to ask you some picks too. We can trade, but we have some questions from some students. So I want to invite Matt in to ask a question. Matt, are you with us? Hey, there he is.
Hi, Matt.
How's it going? I'm Mr. Wheaton. Well, I'm Hugh Cartmel. I'm a senior at SCAD. I'm in the film and television department.
Awesome.
I'm studying a director and writer.
That's so cool. You're doing what I wanted to do when I was
Yeah, exactly. So my question for you today is a bit of a two-parter.
Okay.
You walk the line between on-screen actor and voice actor very well.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to know which you prefer and why. And then my second part is, do you find it easier to first voice act and then on-screen act, or vice versa?
I can answer your questions together. I really enjoy both disciplines for different reasons. Voice acting is unbelievably difficult to break into because there's about 36 people who do everything. They're that good. If you can crack that and just sort of sneak in, it's almost like being in the minor leagues with a team that is in the midst of a dynasty where they're just never bringing players up. Like, you just don't ever get out there and actually play in the big game. I have had the real privilege of being able to do that from time to time, and I absolutely love it. Like, there's a man named Henry Rollins who I deeply respect. He's a writer, and he was the frontman of a punk band that I love called Black Flag. And I never would have gotten to meet him ever in my life, except on a voice job where we were working together in a booth. And on that show, I was the regular, he was the day player. So my hero, Henry Rollins, was deferring to me like I was the veteran in that space. It was really weird. I really love them both. If I had to choose one and I only get to do one for the rest of my life, it would absolutely be voice acting, because as a voice actor, I can be a superhero. I mean, look at me. I weigh 150 pounds. Like, I have no muscle on me at all. I'm a slight little nerd. No one's ever going to believe me as the Blue Beetle, but I got to be the Blue Beetle on Batman. Yeah. It was amazing. To answer your second question, both skill sets share a lot in common. As an actor, we have objectives. We break our lines down into doable actions and beats. We have obstacles to overcome. We have a backstory. We have all the homework we do as actors to help bring life into our characters and fill them out and really make them three-dimensional and meaningful. Whether we are doing that on camera or just with our voice, that homework is the same. The place where it becomes extremely different and really challenging is that in voice acting, this is all you get. You don't get anything else. No looks, no body language, no physical delivery. It is all in the voice. And that's why there's 36 people who do all of it, because they know how unbelievably hard and challenging it is. I want to give you a tiny piece of advice, if I may, because you are going to be speaking as an actor. Mm-hmm. The most helpful advice I can ever get from directors, the most helpful direction I get from directors comes out of asking questions about what I am trying to do with a line. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I have an idea and I take the shot and it doesn't work. It's so helpful when a director says, "What are you doing with that? Like, what do you like? What, you know, what's your goal here?" Okay, I'm not getting that. Try this. And that kind of engagement and communication is extremely important and extremely helpful. The worst thing you can do is give a line reading. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aqualad. Matt, thank you. And
Matt, I really appreciate your questions, and I wish you just the greatest career ahead of you. Good luck, buddy.
Hey, Logan Monahan, are you in there? Let's bring you up. We got a question from Logan. There.
Hello.
Hey, Logan.
I will. Okay. First of all, that acceptance speech was just beautiful. It's just
so
beautiful.
Kind. Thank you.
I just want to reiterate how good it was. I need to make it my morning alarm on my phone for some reason.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you.
My name is Logan Monahan. I'm a senior undergrad here at SCAD in film and TV, going to directing and editing. I feel like you might have answered those questions already just somewhere in the universe, but I just kind of want to ask it. As someone who's creatively dabbled in more than one area and platform throughout your career, is there any one particular creative platform, whether that be acting, voiceover, writing, gaming, etc., that you think would be most helpful in allowing you to be the most creatively or personally free?
That's a terrific question, and it's always different. Let's talk about two really different disciplines, right? One is when I am hired as talent. Mm-hmm. When I'm hired as talent, I have a real specific lane that I stay in. My job is to interpret the material and bring it to life in a way that satisfies the writer's intention and fulfills the director's vision. That's really defined. I know what I'm doing there. Mm-hmm. The other side is when I am a creator, I am a producer, or a director, and in most of those cases, I'm also a writer on the job. I have to watch everything. I'm not just responsible for my performance. In fact, my performance becomes an afterthought. I'm worried about everybody else. I'm worried about making sure everybody else brings their A game and is able to express themselves as fully as possible. When I am talent, unless I am number one on the call sheet, it is not my responsibility to be a leader. It's always my responsibility as a veteran to set a tone, and I will always do that. But it's not my responsibility to be the leader. That's the director and number one's job. When I'm on the other side, when I'm behind the camera, it is 100% my job to be a leader. And I have to constantly be watching and in some cases, like parenting my interns, and like making sure that everybody really knows what they need to know to do their job to the best of their ability. If I had to pick one for the rest of my life, just being talent is so much easier because it's so much less responsibility, and the amount of work that goes into that is so much less than the other side. And just as talent, I tend to earn more than in all the other stuff. So I guess the answer to your question varies from day to day, depending on how lazy I am. If I'm super lazy, yeah, I'm totally into just being talent. But yeah, I still have a few things I want to say. I have a few stories I want to tell. And to make those possible, I think I'm going to have to be on the other side of the line.
Totally.
That's awesome. Thank you, Will. Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it. All right. Hey, we got more students with more questions. Elizabeth, are you around?
Hello.
Hey, good to see you.
Elizabeth.
How's it going?
Great.
Well, I'm Elizabeth, and I'm a senior here, undergrad, studying film and TV with a concentration in documentary. And I've loved everything you've been talking about, and I think your advocacy, like apart from even your creative pursuits, are so important. So I appreciate you being so open and talking about that. I know a lot of people here and around the world can relate. So
thank you.
My question is about your time on the Big Bang Theory, and you sort of briefly touched on this, but you talk a lot about creating stories and using your imagination in sort of like every platform and all of your crafts. And so I was curious if, since that was sort of a version of yourself and it was over like 11 seasons, I think, if you ever had sort of any say in the scripts, or if there was any sort of on-set collaboration, because a lot of those things they were talking about, like related sort of, two different parts of your life. It was very interesting. So I just wanted to hear about that.
So I want to tell you something that I learned working on the Big Bang Theory. I learned this from Jim Parsons. All scripted entertainment is music. Everything follows patterns that music follows. And music is, like, when you reduce it to its most basic form, it's math, right? So there's almost an equation that you follow. There's almost like there's a rhythm that you follow, right? When parenthetically, I'm doing a thing with the punk rock karaoke guys right now, and the song I chose, it starts on an upbeat. The lyric starts on an upbeat in 4/7 time instead of on a downbeat in 4/4 time, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So I have so much respect for musicians who follow this. But I learned a thing, right? This is what I learned from Jim. We're doing a scene once, and Jim and it just didn't work. It wasn't funny. It didn't feel right. And Jim just said, "I'm sorry, I don't hear the music in this." And one of the writers was on the set, and he was like, "You're absolutely right. We need to rewrite this so that you're doing this with the music, so our rising and falling actions are happening in the same time." Mm-hmm. I learned that as it relates to sitcoms particularly, the music and the timing is unbelievably important. It is our responsibility as actors to say word for word what the writers have given us to say, because they've composed a symphony for us every week to perform in. And we need to honor their work and bring it to life as fully as possible. That said, more than once, the writers and producers of Big Bang Theory asked me if I had a personal experience in my career that they could draw from to inform the experiences that Will Wheaton in their universe has had and is sharing with Sheldon and Penny. Mm-hmm. And in those cases, I did get to contribute my personal experiences to the story. When Will Wheaton, Leonard, and Penny go to the coffee shop because Penny's trying to decide if she wants to quit acting, and Will Wheaton talks about how terrible it can be and how unfair and frustrating it is, that is 100% me from real life. When Sheldon's having a really hard time getting recognition for something that he thinks is embarrassing, and I tell him, listen, our lives are complicated. We have little pieces of them that people really love and giant pieces that only we love. They all go together to make a really great life. That was all from me. And they took it and made it funny and relevant to their universe. So they were very open to drawing on my actual personal experiences. But once it's in the script, and this is really important for all actors out there, once it's in the script, it is entirely appropriate if you're struggling with something to say to a director or a writer, I'm just having a hard time with this. I can't hear it. Like, I don't know what it is. What's not okay is to just make the decision on your own to arbitrarily change lines because it's easier for you to do it that way. If you can justify it in your performance, you have buy-in from the writer and director, go nuts. But it's kind of arrogant and disrespectful to just presume that you can take work that has taken a lot of time to develop and just change it because you're not willing to meet it where it wants to be met.
That's a great question, Elizabeth. Thank you, Will.
Thanks,
I gotta ask, do you really invite Brent Spiner to your parties?
Well, not for the last year.
Good.
But in normal times, absolutely.
That's fantastic.
They are my family.
We got one more question. So, Danger, Will Robinson. Okay. Danger. Hey, it's Will Robinson.
Hi, Will Robinson.
How's it going,
I
Will?
bet you are as tired of people flapping their arms at you as I am of people saying.
He's tired of me doing it. I've had him in class for like 3 quarters, and I apologize, Will.
No, I've sort of come around to it. There was a period where I rejected it, but I've come full circle to embrace it. I know we're a little low on time, but I do want to say real quick, I do really appreciate you sharing your experiences with anxiety and depression, and I know that many others will appreciate it too. My question for you, I hope this isn't terribly redundant, but considering Matt's question, but how do you feel that your live action acting has broadened your skills as a voiceover actor, and or vice versa?
They are complementary skills for sure. Voice acting forces me to play my body like an instrument. I have to keep my lungs really open, and I have to make sure that my throat is lubricated and that I have the energy that I need. And sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes I have to work really intensely with a director to like squeeze a thing out that just isn't coming for one reason or another. That really helps out with a full body, full performance on camera acting, because I know how to do it with just my voice. So I can actually dial back what I do with just my voice and use my body to do the other stuff. It's really important to point out that all this stuff I'm talking about, it's all process stuff. All this work has to happen long before we get on the set. A little bit of it can happen in rehearsal. We can find things in rehearsal like on the day. If we are fortunate enough to have a rehearsal period before production begins, yeah, go there and go crazy. That is about experimentation and trying things that are deliberately wrong just to see what happens. But when you're on the set, you're kind of supposed to know what's going on, and all that process, it needs to have already happened. And then you gotta like throw it all away, which I know seems really counterintuitive and maybe a little bit confusing. They are complementary skills that help inform one another. But as I said earlier, the fundamental basic skills of understanding material, having objectives, breaking down dialogue beat by beat, and understanding where those pressure points are in a scene, that's the same regardless of whether it is on camera or voice only.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Will. Okay, we got to wrap things up. But first, I got to play the alpha. Any other suggestions?
There's a really fun 2-player card game called Spicy that my wife gave me for Christmas.
Awesome.
That I really enjoy. My friends Keith and Jen published a gorgeous, beautiful card game based on the music of the Decemberists called Illimat. Illimat is one of my absolute favorite games of all time. It is gorgeous and wonderful. It plays incredibly with 4. It also plays great heads up. I'm absolutely crazy about it. It came out after Tabletop had finished. Otherwise, it 100% would have been on Tabletop for sure. I really love it. I cannot recommend it enough.
Oh, fantastic. I'll look for them. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And
it's been a real pleasure.
On being SCAD's latest Spotlight Award honoree. Come visit us when you're in Georgia, okay?
As soon as it is safe, I will do that. And then I hope some of your students will join me at the barricades as we work to change the incredibly regressive and anti-American laws your governor just passed in Georgia.
Well, to all of you in our audience, that is a wrap on day 1 of SCAD Gaming Fest. And day 2 promises to be even more fun. We're going to kick off tomorrow morning with the making of Zoeli, followed by our Twitch takeover, which is going to include some high-stakes Rocket League action. We're also going to have presentations on cinematics from Bungie's Matt Ward and player dynamics from Seth Smith of Riot Games. Both are accomplished SCAD alumni. So check the schedule for all the details and share the links with your friends. Thank you, and have a great night.